Hello, tubers and tubettes. My name is David. I live up in Northern California, and we're very lucky today because it's raining. Normally it doesn't rain in California. February is our wettest month, and we're having a lot of rain coming in today. And normally I would not go outside because I have the day off, but need to go down and pick up my W-2 at the office. So you may see the windshield wipers may be making a little bit of noise. Today what I wanted to talk to you about was we're going back down memory lane to something that my mother and I did together as a mother-son thing, and I have such fond memories of it because my mom and I were so passionate about it. So I had mentioned before I grew up in the high desert near Barstow, and back in the day I guess it wasn't unusual for you to just be driving around and see like an old abandoned house, or maybe just a foundation. In fact, we even had a foundation behind us that was just a wall of a kind of like a stone building. There was nothing else there, just the foundation and the wall, and that was behind our property. But we'd actually go out and seek out places that were abandoned areas, and the rain kind of reminded me of it, because what we'd like to do is when it would rain, then the water would saturate the soil, and it would cause sometimes what you'd see like a depression where it looked like the ground had actually sunk. You could tell because there was like cracks around it, sometimes in a circular pattern, meaning that it was either could have been a well, or it could have been an outhouse, one of the two. Well, that's all that would be left. And what was happening was when the rain came, the weight of the dirt would help crush the tin cans that were down there, and that's what would create that indentation. So after a rain especially, my mom and I would go looking around for these dumps, and what we were looking for were the bottles that were in the dumps. So it became a really big activity for my mom and I to do. There's just something weird about holding a bottle in your hand that might have been 100 years old, especially when you get into the cork top bottles and things like that. But such an old bottle, and the idea with the goal was to find one in a perfect condition. My mom was Japanese, so she'd always say, "Oh, David, this is a bonanza," meaning that we found something that had been covered for a long time, and she called it a bonanza. So I remember one of our most famous trips was we were going out in Newberry Springs, where I grew up. We were actually with a friend of ours, Dottie Brown. She's long passed away, and her husband was the guy that got me into the Navy. He used to be a recruiter, Tom Brown. And they lived out there. Dottie was out there a lot by herself because Tom worked in San Francisco, and he would drive from Barstow, which has got to be like 500 miles. He'd drive down there on a Friday and then go back on a Sunday. So he wasn't there very long, but until he retired. But anyway, Dottie, she had a VW. I remember it was a VW Bug, and my mom and myself would go out bottle hunting. So we had found this place. You couldn't really tell there was anything there. There might have been like a post that used to be for cattle or something, and I don't even remember there being a foundation. I do remember it being kind of sandy, but we just go out on that property, which you couldn't even do that today. Somebody would come out and shoot you or get you off the property. But we went out there and we'd dig around, and we found a pretty big sunken area. So we started digging and digging and digging, and we found a bunch of cans, trash. That was good. That was good to find that, because that meant that you were probably in an abandoned well and not a outhouse. Because outhouse, it would have been mostly like tissue, Back in the day, they used to use like Sears and Roebuck's catalogs for the toilet paper. My dad used to always joke that the slick ones were hell. You know, the slick pictures were hell. But that's basically what people used back in the day. And so you'd find that you could usually tell that it was an outhouse. All that would be all compressed like fiber. So this seemed to be a well, and as we dug deeper and deeper, I think we got over my head, which at the time was probably about 6 foot. And so my mom was so worried about it being a well, because a lot of times there would be an abandoned well and it might be 30 feet down. And sometimes when you get in there, the weight of your body would actually cause you to crush through. Or in some cases, people would just lay plywood or wood over the top and then bury it. And so again, they never thought, you know, that it would completely collapse at some point and some Japanese American guy would be out there trying to dig up bottles. They never even occurred to them. It was total trash to them. So we did dig through it. It was like an archaeological dig. And we just found all kinds of whiskey bottles, beautiful colors. The way you can tell the age of it is depending on the seam that goes down the side of it. So if the seam goes all the way up to the top, and it's a 5-piece mold, meaning that you have a bottom, 2 sides, and a crown top. That would be, you know, probably 1925 and later. Those are made by machine. And then if you found one that had a crown top, but it was handmade, or it could also be a cork top, and the seams went all the way up the side, but then you just had the top of it, that would indicate that it was an older bottle, because the top was hand done. And then if you see where the sides are actually further down the shoulder of the bottle, that would mean it's even older, you know, like in the 1800s. And then, so some of these bottles that we found, and I plan on doing a video just on the bottles because I have them in a box. My wife won't let me put them out. She just it doesn't go with any decor that we have. But if I had my own place, I would have them up there in the window, you know, silicone down on the shelf, because, well, they mean a lot to me. You know, they're in a box and they've been wrapped for years, but I want to bring them out and do a video just on the ones that we found in this bonanza, you know, that my mother talked about. So another thing that we would do too is we'd be looking around for these old Coca Cola bottles. Back in the day, they called it Big Chief, and the Big Chief bottle was Coca Cola, and it depicted an Indian chief on it. Now the older ones from the 20s, normally the face of the Indian had kind of like a funny looking nose. I mean, that would probably be what they would think an Indian's nose looked like. But over the years, the nose got more rounder and smoother, more like a white guy's nose. But back in the day, you know, when we didn't have the political correctness that they had, Coca-Cola actually had the Indian chief looking really like an Indian. And so those are kind of coveted because we would find hundreds, maybe thousands of broken ones. What guys would do is they would put them on a fence post, and then they would shoot at them. Now, every once in a while, one would fall over, and it never got shot. You know, it just fell over from not being placed correctly. But it was very, very hard to find it. And my mom and I just looked through hundreds of bottles. We could tell that they were being shot off of a fence because they were all completely broken, and you could even see where the bullet holes were going. So we looked and looked and looked. Now, side note is when you would open them with the cap or with a cork, because it was carbonated, the cap, when you popped it open, it actually would pop, have a popping sound. And that's where they came up with the name soda pop. That's what soda pop means. So it comes from the sound. So we looked and looked, and we just could never find one. And we were always looking for the Big Chief bottles. So when my mother I turned 80 years old. I mean, she really didn't need anything. She had everything she needed and wanted. And we weren't obviously bottle collecting. We did that when I was more like 16 to 18, maybe 16 to 17. And so for her birthday, I ended up getting her this Big Chief bottle. This is it. Now this one here, I got it on eBay. That's the easiest way to get it. And on the bottom of it, it says St. Augustine, Texas. So I looked it up, and it's right on the border of Louisiana. You can actually see Shreveport, you know, in the map that it came in. But you know, if you can read, it says Big, and then you go all the way around. It says Chief. Where they manufactured them was always put on the bottom. This one's a blue one, a blue-green they call it, and you can see the nose of the Indian there. Kind of a very prominent nose. So I just wanted to share that. I gave it to my mom, and it just brought back all these memories of us going out there early in the morning looking for stuff. And most of the time we wouldn't find very much, but it's a lot different than it was now, because really nobody was looking for it. Not a lot of people were looking for it like we were. I'm saying almost 50 years ago now. So she really liked that. She had it prominently displayed in her house. And when she had passed away, my little sister asked me if there was anything in particular I wanted from my mom. And I wanted she had a purple vase, which I always remembered. She had a kabuki decanter from Japan, which I think my dad probably got that. And that Big Chief bottle that I had given her. So I ended up getting it back. I have two, so one can go to one son, one can go to the other son. And I don't know if they're going to have the same, well, they won't have the same value in their mind. They're probably wondering more about how much is this worth. They're worth from $60 to $150. And this one's, both of them are in excellent condition, because I don't think they were ever shot at, and they were never put outside. They probably drank it and then put it in the garage somewhere. It's amazing how big and heavy that bottle was, and it was probably, I'm gonna say maybe 25 cents, you know, to have bought it back in the day. And I think mine is around 1920, maybe 1925, that particular bottle. So I just wanted to share it with you and share that memory of my mom and I doing something that we really loved. And I do still have all of those bottles, our bottles that we found in that bonanza, and I am going to do a video on it. So I wanted you guys to be able to see that. So thank you very much for coming and letting me share, and I appreciate it. Appreciate you guys. So thank you very much, and have a great day.